Needless to say, the punch incident has certainly taken its toll on Sibrel.
I kind of was a bit turned off when I saw Bart Sibrel's Astronauts Gone Wild. Now, I didn't bring that up before because I thought it's sort of irrelevant, but I think that what he did has damaged his own credibility.
In my honest opinion, I feel both parties are at fault. Yes, Sibrel called Aldrin a liar and a coward and a thief, but Aldrin called Sibrel an attention seeker, which Sibrel found insulting, coming from someone who frequently makes money out of his fictional space exploits. With the insults flying here and there, it was only inevitable that things would get physical sooner or later. I'm not picking sides, nor am I trying to justify what either of them did, and it seems that Sibrel himself has regretted his actions. Years later, Sibrel publicly stated this about the incident.
I asked him in Los Angeles a couple of years ago to swear on the Bible that he walked on the moon, and he refused to do it. And he had just given an interview upstairs to a Japanese company, Japanese production company, and they paid him $2,000 for him to talk for an hour about how he walked on the moon when he didn't. And I said that made him a thief, a liar, and a coward for being afraid for the truth to come out. Now, I didn't intend on saying that. It was one of those things where the heat kept getting turned up, you know. And he didn't like me saying that, and he punched me. You know, we got that on camera. It's in the film. And, you know, no big deal. I mean, he didn't plan on hitting me. I didn't plan on saying that. You know, and now that I've had time to think about it, I feel responsible for it. I feel like I did provoke him. That, you know, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have called him a coward, a liar, and a thief. That was inappropriate.
Well, yeah, I understand. But
I provoked him punching me. So I feel like, you know, it was really my fault that happened. You know, I didn't plan on it. I wouldn't do it again. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things.
You didn't say punch me because, I want to get some film footage. All right, we got a question.
Even though Sibrel has deeply regretted the incident, and both publicly and privately apologized for it, there are those who twist the events of that day. Sibrel had stated that he met up with Aldrin after the former astronaut had given an interview to a Japanese production company. A statement that is in agreement to what Space.com told us shortly after the assault. But Jay Windley tells us a different version of events. On the Internet Movie Database forum, Windley wrote,
Bart Sibrel posed as a Japanese film crew to solicit an interview with Aldrin under false pretenses. Sibrel had been stalking astronauts for years, so many of them knew who he was, and would not grant him interviews directly. According to documents I viewed from the LA prosecutor's office, Sibrel told them his intent was to conduct an ambush interview with Aldrin in which he planned to accuse Aldrin of dishonestly taking the honorarium for the interview and then catching his reaction on camera.
As we know, Windley has a bad habit of twisting the facts any way he can to make his opponents appear wrong or dishonest. So who do you trust, Jay Windley or Bart Sibrel? Needless to say, the regulars on the Bad Astronomy forums and ApolloHoax.net will pick Windley's side in a heartbeat. You've heard Jay Windley's and Bart Sibrel's sides of the story, but there is a third party whose story we haven't heard yet. A third party whose story the propagandists should listen to, Colonel Edwin Buzz Aldrin. As part of the 40th anniversary of the moon landing, Aldrin released a new book entitled Magnificent Desolation. In a chapter called A Blow Heard Round the World, Aldrin discusses the incident in vivid detail. Everyone who believes Windley's side of the story needs to hear this. Because of the publicity the hoax theorists have garnered, occasionally, even in a serious interview, a reporter will broach the subject. One September morning in 2002, I was in Beverly Hills at Lux Hotel, filming a television interview for a Far Eastern TV network, when the interviewer began going in a direction that I knew was out of bounds. At first, I tried to be cordial, adroitly answering the question, assuming that the interviewer would recognize my reluctance to talk about inanity and bring the focus back to a bona fide space subject. Instead, the interviewer began playing a television segment that had aired in the United States on the subject of hoaxes, including a section suggesting the Apollo 11 moon landing never happened. I was aware of the piece and had been livid when it originally aired. I did not appreciate the interviewer's attempts to lure me into commenting on it. Lisa had accompanied me to the interview following her early morning triathlon training in the Santa Monica Bay, and she immediately recognized that this was a flagrant violation of our willingness to conduct the interview in good faith, so she called a halt to the production. We weren't belligerent, but we did not linger over our goodbyes either. We left the hotel room and walked down the hall to catch the elevator, only a matter of seconds away. I pressed the button for ground level, and Lisa and I looked at each other and smiled. It had been a strange morning already. When the elevator doors opened on the ground level, it got worse. As we stepped out of the hotel foyer, a large man who looked to be in his mid-30s approached me, attempting to engage me in conversation. "Hey Buzz, how are you?" He had his own film crew along, with the camera already rolling to document the encounter. I greeted him briefly, acknowledging his presence, and kept moving. Standard procedure for life in Hollywood. As Lisa and I walked through the foyer towards the front door of the hotel, however, the man kept getting in my way, peppering me with questions, none of which I answered. Lisa took my arm and glared at the man. "That's enough," she said, as I could feel her pressure on my arm guiding me towards the door. "Please let us alone. We're leaving now." We stepped outside under the hotel awning, and the film crew continued right along with us. Lisa's car was parked across the street on Rodeo Drive, but there was no crosswalk nearby, and the traffic was brisk. Meanwhile, the interviewer had taken out a very large Bible and was shaking it in my face, his voice becoming more animated. "Will you swear on this Bible that you really walked on the moon?" I looked back at the man and gave him a look as if to say, "Will you swear on that Bible that you are an idiot?" The man was becoming more virulent, inflammatory, and personally accusatory in his outbursts. I tried not to pay any attention, but he was saying things like, "Your life is a complete lie, and here you are making money by giving interviews about things you never did." Lisa approached the cameraman and insisted, "Please turn off that camera, we're trying to get across the street to our car." I'm a patient man, but this situation was silly. "You conspiracy people don't know what you're talking about," I said. Lisa spied a break in the traffic, so she grabbed me by the arm again and said, "Buzz, let's go." We started walking across the street, but the large man kept getting right in front of us, standing in the middle of Rodeo Drive, blocking our path as his cameraman kept rolling film. Lisa seemed nervous about trying to go around him, while searching for her keys to unlock the car with the man in such close proximity, so we turned around and walked back to the bellman station outside the hotel. "Okay, this is ridiculous," I said to Lisa and the bellman. "Call the police. This guy is not letting us get to our car." I was under the awning, and Lisa turned away from me to approach the cameraman again. "Please turn that camera off," she said. Meanwhile, the large man was nearly screaming at me. "You're a coward, Buzz Aldrin. You're a liar. You're a thief." Maybe it was the West Point cadet in me, or perhaps it was just the Air Force fighter pilot. Or maybe I just had enough of his belligerent character assassination. But whatever it was, as the man continued to excoriate me, I suddenly let loose a right hook that would have made George Foreman proud. Whap! I belted the guy squarely in the jaw. Aldrin never mentions this individual by name, but I doubt we need to second guess who he is talking about. While I feel that some parts of his story, like the busy traffic, are exaggerated, it's important to note that Aldrin states that before his encounter with Sibrel, he had just given an interview to a Far Eastern TV network. Aldrin's story is exactly the same as what Sibrel told us, that Aldrin had just given an interview to a Japanese TV company, and he, Sibrel, encountered him afterwards. You'd think that if Sibrel lured Aldrin to the motel, pretending to be a Japanese company, as Windley claimed, Aldrin would have openly wrote about that in a heartbeat. And yet, he said exactly the same thing as Sibrel. So, thank you, Buzz. Thank you for proving conclusively and definitively that your #1 defender of your moon landing claims, Jay Windley, is a pathological liar who will pull whatever he can out of the air in order to libel conspiracy theorists.